I have Bob Hedden up here, and he is just completed directing a film. There are not a lot of directors who really direct a whole film. It's an uncommon thing. He didn't start that way, though. He started out working in photography, went to school for that, and then he became a writer. And that simply means that you can think and you can express your thoughts in a written form. And I know that sounds simple because I was told by my own mother-in-law one night at a party, and I made a mistake, when she said, "You know, Jim, what you do, I could do if I could take the time and sit down long enough." And then everybody got mad in the family at me because I went in the next room, got a pad of paper, walked back out, slammed it down in front of her, and I said, "Begin." This man next to me began and has done some great work.
I think you're a pretty tough act to follow. I don't know that I can add much to that. Thank you for that. Well, like Howie, I'm really lucky. I don't take anything for granted. And for all of you who are writers, you know, your situation with Howie's situation is really a great, unique situation, because a lot of times directors take your material, because I've been on both sides of it, where I've been a writer and someone else has directed my work, and I've been the guy hired to rewrite other people. I've been rewritten myself, and I've directed other people's stuff, and I've kind of gotten it from different angles. And I find when I'm just the writer that it's normal to have the director come in and the producers and take your work and thank you very much, goodbye, we'll see you at the premiere, and not really be, you know, part of the process enough. Unless it's a director who, like in one particular, I wrote a movie called Clock Stoppers, and the director, who was also a Trekkie, Jonathan Frakes, who played #1, you know, in Star Trek, is a friend of mine, and I had directed him in a TV movie that he produced, and so we became friends. And he called me up one day, and this is 7 years after I'd sold the script for Clock Stoppers. And the whole process of, you know, you think it's going to happen instantly. I wrote a script, my agent sold it by some miracle within like 2 days, a 48-hour bidding war sale. And 7 years later, and 5 zillion writers later, Paramount decided to make the movie. And Jonathan called me up. The way I found out that my movie was going to get made was that Jonathan called me up and he says, "Hey, Rob, yeah, they've hired me to direct your movie." And I was like, "What movie is that? What are we talking about?" It's like 7 years had gone by, right? And he says, "Clock Stoppers." And I said, "Well, what do you direct? There's been like all these writers that have been thrown at it since me." And he said, "I don't know, they just gave me the latest draft." I said, "Well, why don't you, can you go back and read the one that they bought? Just to check." So he read it, and you know, maybe it's because he's a friend of mine or whatever, but he went into his first meeting with the producers in the studio and he said, "Hey, did you guys go back and read the script that you bought?" And he says, "That's the one I want to make." And so, you know, I was so lucky in that he actually, that's the one they shot, except for there was a little bit of polishing during the production from the guys who wrote Shrek. And they came in, and they're great guys. They did a really nice job because Nickelodeon got involved. But that's a normal process to get rewritten a lot. And you know, with Cowie, the director this is a great guy because he brought you in and let you participate in it. He asked your opinion on costumes and sets, and that just doesn't happen. That's not the normal thing. And when I became, one of the reasons why, you know, I became a director is I started out wanting to direct, and I thought, well, if I write, then I'll ransom my script. If they like it enough, I'll say, the catch is you gotta let me direct. And they all said, forget it, we don't want you, know. And that's how I got my first directing. I think it was on a TV show. As I said, they wanted me to write for the show, and I said, you gotta let me direct 1 episode. And they didn't want to, but I basically kind of ransomed the script, and they were desperate. It was really, how bad can it be? That was their attitude when they hired me to direct it. We'll fix it. And fortunately, they liked it, and then it led to other things, like one of the Friday the 13th movies was my first movie, and I wasn't even a horror guy. But when they said, hey, do you want to write and direct a Friday the 13th movie? I thought, well, I'll learn something doing it. So I did that, and that was great. But you just, you know, again, you don't know what's going to happen when you write something. And I just say, keep writing. I mean, your advice about, you know, you've got to read a lot. I think if you want to write, the best thing you can do, because I'm not a novelist. I've written novelizations for a couple of my movies, but I'm a screenwriter and a director. And so what I would say is what I did anyway is, first of all, I snuck on the lot at Universal when I first got out of college, and I just met people, and I was really naive and honest. And when they said, "What are you doing? You just snuck onto our set. What are you doing?" And I said, "Well, I just got out of college and I want to learn how to make TV shows and movies. And I thought if I watched you, I might learn something." And they laughed always, because nobody would say that. They always, somebody's got a story, you know. But read, if you want to do it. Read, read, read. Get your hands on every script you can get your hands on, and read it, because you will learn a lot from reading other people's work, good and bad. The bad stuff, you ask yourself, why isn't it working? You know. And the good stuff, you'll read it and you'll go, and you'll ask the same questions. And then write, write, write. And it is lonely. You know, you've done it. We work in this business, you know. It's lonely, but if it's, I have a lot of writer friends who hate the process, hate it. They hate going in there and, you know, all alone and sitting down for 8 hours or however what their process is, and just writing, and not coming out, and it's antisocial, and you go to the Writers Guild meetings and they're a bunch of wacky people. I'm the first to admit it. You go to the directors and the Directors Guild meetings, they're boring. They're just all really normal people. And the writers are wacky. So they're more fun, those meetings, but you just have the weird thing about the writing and directing is writing lonely, one person. The great thing about it, and you know this when you're writing your book, there are no restrictions. There's no concerns of budget, time, locations. You can put words in people's mouths and you're not going to have the actors go, you know, I wouldn't say that. There's nothing. It's carte blanche. And it's really fun and you get excited, but it's basically you alone prancing around your office or your room going, oh, wow, and nobody else is like, you know. When you're directing, it's the exact opposite, where you've got 100 people plus that are asking you questions, and you pray that half of your answers are correct, and that you have opportunity to make mistakes all day long during prep and during the shooting and all that, and you're just hoping that half of your answers are correct, that you don't screw up. Now, you know, my job, like on You May Not Kiss the Bride, which is a movie that we had the premiere Wednesday night, we had a benefit Thursday night, and it opened last night here in Hawaii, and then it's 2 weeks from now it moves nationally, and it's already in Russia and a lot of other places, but you know, you have to we have to go for it. You know, I guess that's really the thing, is to not worry about whether you're going to sell something or not sell something, and write, because you will get better the more you write. I've got a stack of scripts that I wrote that never will see the light of day. And you think, and it can be discouraging, and the rejection you guys talked about rejection. Those were all really good questions, by the way, that you asked her. They were all really good questions and very valuable, because you do face a lot of rejection. I have one script that was rejected almost 50 times, and it ended up being bought by one of the people that rejected it the first time around. And I would change the title and resubmit it, and change character names and resubmit it, and do whatever you could do to get it out there. And constant rejection, it can be demoralizing. But all I can say is that if you get a rejection, if you really believe in the project, don't take no for an answer. I kept submitting, and then these guys bought the script, and then they forgot that they'd rejected it. And I had to remind them, which was embarrassing for them. I said, oh yeah, you guys, you know, you rejected this, and they go, no, we didn't reject it. But the point is, and I had another one that took 8 years to get made. I wrote it, 8 years later, it finally got made. It takes time. Then there's other ones that you do, and they happen really quickly. I used to write for a show called MacGyver, and there was one time when they were so desperate that we were writing, a bunch of the writers together. I wrote an act, somebody else did, and literally about 15 minutes after we printed out the pages and ran it down to the set, they were shooting it. That's fast. That's the fastest I've ever had. Writing it, and like 15 minutes later, they're rehearsing it and shooting it. That's television now. And then the other side of it is 8 years later, I wrote a movie called The Colony with John Ritter. That took 8 years to get made. And another CBS TV movie that was about that long. So, you know, be patient, go for it. And I don't know, that's about all I can think of right now to long-winded. Sorry.
Yeah, tough act to follow. Yeah.